All right, hello, welcome back. I want to go through a couple of problems from the back of the worksheet that people had asked about. And so let's go ahead and do that. So number 7 was the first one somebody asked about. Here in the directions, maybe y'all missed this. This went with all 3 of them, but it says the quadrilateral has an area of 64 units. Find the value of x. So we know that the area of this is 64. Okay, what we want to find is the side length of this rhombus. We know it's a rhombus, 1, because the diagonals are perpendicular, and also because the sides are marked congruent. We know the area. That's all we really know. So we have to start with that formula. Area equals 1/2 diagonal 1 times diagonal 2. We know the area is 64. So 64 equals 1/2. This diagonal is right here. 8 and 8 together are 16. But we don't know this second diagonal. So we need to find that. Once we know that, we can go and try to find x. But you can't really find x until you find that other diagonal. And we can only find the diagonal because we know the area. Okay, so when you're given the area, you have to just go with it and use the area formula. Okay, so this is going to be 64 equals 1/2 times 16 is 8. So 64 equals 8 times d2. When you divide, you get that diagonal 2 is 8. Now that's the entire diagonal is 8. So if it's being bisected, then each of these pieces of the diagonal is 4. Okay, so now I'm going to redraw this so you can see a little bit better. I'm going to focus in on this right triangle right here. Okay, so this is x, this is 4, and this is 8. So I just redrew this. Oops, you can't see what I'm doing. I just redrew this right triangle right here. So it's this piece right here. This is a right triangle. I know 2 sides. How do I find the third side? Pythagorean theorem. So I'm going to say x squared, that's your hypotenuse, equals 4 squared plus 8 squared. So this gives us 16 plus 64. So x squared equals 80. When you square root it, you get square root of 80. This simplifies to, let's see, 4 goes into there, 16 and 5. So this would be 4 square root of 5, I do believe. Let me double check that. Yes. Okay, you could use a factor tree, you could use perfect squares, whatever you're comfortable with. We've talked about simplifying before. So you had to use the area formula to find the diagonal so that you could go a step farther and do the Pythagorean theorem to find x. That was definitely a tricky one. Let's look at 10. Okay, 10 says rhombus SRUT, so you got cut off, but hopefully you realize that was you, has this area of 64. Find US if RT equals 8. This is basically almost just like the one we just did. And so we know the area. We know it's a rhombus, so 1/2 D1 D2. It says area is 64. Oops. The area is 64, so 64 equals 1/2. It says RT, that's this diagonal, is 8. It's saying the whole thing is 8. We're looking for D2. So I'm gonna multiply these 2 together. 64 equals 1/2 times 8 is 4, so 4d2. Divide, and you get d2 equals 16. d2 is gonna be the US, so the length of US is 16. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. We've done a couple like that now. Let's look at 11, very similar, but about a rhombus, or excuse me, or trapezoid. You're given that the area is 126. What's the base? We know this is a trapezoid because it has 1 pair of parallel sides. So I'm gonna say area equals 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. You're given the area, so you have to use the area formula. You don't have any other information. So since we know the area, we can plug it in. We know the height is 9. I know that's the height because it's perpendicular to the base. The bottom base is 16, and I don't know the other one. So I'm going to just put 16 times B2. You could have done B1 plus 16. It would give you the same thing. You're finding a base. It does not matter which one you call base 1 and which one you call base 2. Okay, so I'm going to multiply the 9 and the 1/2. So I'm going to say 126 equals 4.5 times 16 plus B2. From here, you could do a couple of things. You could distribute the 4.5. That would be totally fine. You could also, because it's 4.5 times this, we could right away, or right now, divide by 4.5. Then you don't have to distribute it. Okay, 126 divided by 4.5 is 28. So you get 28 equals 16 plus B2. Subtract, and you get B2 equals 12. Okay, number 9 on this one worksheet is the same thing with different numbers. So if you didn't get number 9, try it now using the exact same process. They are the same. You are given one base, you're given the height, you're given the area. It's just it's just different numbers instead of these numbers, but the process is identical. So if you didn't get number 9 on this worksheet, go ahead and try that now that we've seen this one. Okay, and then let's look at 12. 12 is graphed. It's a little trapezoid here. Okay, so it wants us to find the area. And so I'm going to say area equals 1/2 height times base 1 plus base 2. Oops, I'm sorry. I keep forgetting that y'all can't see all that side. Okay, now this is graphed. Conveniently, everything's perfectly perpendicular and horizontal and vertical. So here, let me get a darker color. Sorry. Here's one base. That's 1 unit. This base is 1, 2, 3, 4. So the bases are 1 and 4. We keep the 1/2. The height is going to be here. Perpendicularly connect those bases. It's 1, 2, 3. So we have 1/2 times 3 times 1 plus 4. So this is going to be A equals 1/2 times 3 times 5. 3 times 5 is 15. Half of that, 7.5. They do give you units, so centimeters squared. Oh, and on this one, actually, they gave me inches, so B is 9 inches. I didn't find an area here. I found the length of the base, so it's just inches. Only area is going to be squared units. Here I found the area, so squared units. Okay. If there's others that you had questions about, please, 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 please feel free to ask, and I will help you if I can. I tried to do all the ones I think that people asked me about. I'm hoping I didn't miss any that people had mentioned. I tried to make a little list so that I didn't forget.